So we're going to do Sicilian defense wing gambit once again against a very highly rated opponent who actually is like some sort of, you know, paid patron type individual with like fancy logos and amazing statistics, and has played thousands of games and is sometimes a featured person. So I think what we're going to do is uh, show you what happens when you develop very quickly and black isn't prepared for this sort of thing, and he continues on with his same sort of plan that he plays anyway, trying to play against the wing gambit with a particular kind of Sicilian. So I guess we'll turn on our engine. So it's apparent what this person probably was going to play anyway. I think this is a noteworthy plan where they play b6 and a5. However, I think it probably is more essential to try to trade off that d3 bishop than move it where he did. And what I'm doing is I'm basically setting up the potential for a pawn push. I'm always looking for the pawn push. So it said d5 was right, and now interestingly it wants c4, and I have played that in this position, but I didn't this game. So he castles, and now I get in the push, which it says is incorrect and the wrong time. You're also going to notice that in this particular game, I made a lot of bad moves as far as the computer's concerned, but I was never down more than 3/4 of a pawn. I do not believe. Now the big problem with that is that he could go to c3 or f4, and I basically make the move that stops that. It's interesting now that the computer says bishop to d2 to stop the c3 advance, and instead I push the pawn. And the idea behind pushing the pawn is not to take back right away. If he takes, I move probably pawn to c4, something like that. So it says he should just move knight to c3. Instead, he goes for the forced exchange. Now I'm just developing normally. It says knight to c6 is the right move. It's interesting how he says that. It says, oh no, I'm sorry, he played knight to c6. It says pawn to d6 is the right move. Or bishop to d5, intending to develop that. Which is an interesting computer idea. If you move your bishop to d5, then you can move knight to c6 and your e4 square is covered. Which is the problem with what he played. And we get in queen to e4. And this is not a decisive advantage, but it's close. So, somebody rated 2200 plus probably thought they could just defend this. I'm not sure. So they still have lots of play. They can move knight to a5, which they did. That's the recommended computer move. And instead of queen to g4, which the computer wanted, which looks like it threatens a sack on g6, I move queen to f4, which allows them to play f5 successfully, it looks like. He didn't play either. He took this way. And what's interesting is the computer says I should play bishop takes f8, but instead I believe I just recaptured. And now the computer's decided that's just as good. So I still have the two bishops, and I still have this attack. And the fact that my queen is on the f file as opposed to the g file at this point is now working in my favor. Because if he moves his rook, as he does, the f7 pawn is loose, except for his king. And we can overload his king with proper play. So that apparently is the losing move. We just went to plus 3.3 after a bunch of analysis. It said he had to move d6 again. And we just moved king to h1, which we got the instant move. So if a person looked at this position and said, well, how could black be 4 down? This is a advanced attacking chess. Now, Stockfish 8 wants him to move the rook right back to f8. Instead, he moves his bishop back, so we move simply rook over. And we have this devastating threat of a sack on g6. So his kingside Swiss cheese. White's now up 30. So it says rook to e7 is the only move. And then there's a maiden. Now it's found a maiden 16. Look at that. Who would have guessed? Okay, so I do go astray here. I don't play a maiden 3. And I'm no longer up 30. However, there's still a maiden 9. So I'm having fun in positions like this. So now there's a maiden 4, so he resigned at this point. There's just too much here. So, yeah, shamefully I did miss that quick mate, but there's another mate 3 right here. So, in any case, it has its effects. You know, I could be bridging rooks and everything else. Anyway, this was an instructive game on the vulnerability of f7.